Hello there, beautiful people. Welcome to another episode of The Sara Show. I'm your host, Sarah. I'm a medical doctor and actress, and today I'm going to be talking to you about whether or not you should quit your job. I have some experience in this field, having quit my job, and I just want to talk about it because I've been posting about it lots, and I've been getting a lot of comments from people saying, I want to do this too, I want to quit my job, how do I quit my job? And so in order to prevent myself from being the reason why you quit your job without thinking it through, I thought I would do an episode to help you think it all through if it's something that you're looking to do. And yes, sometimes I rhyme. I'm a rapper though. I'm a rapper. I be telling people that I can rap and no one believes me. Maybe I'm more of a poet. Anyway, that was a bit off topic. If you're new here, hi. I'm still a medical doctor. I'm also an actress, and I've been sharing and documenting my creative journey or my career journey from working in the medical field to working on screen and on stage. And it has been amazing. Like, I've been getting so much feedback and so many comments about this career change that I was like, I've got to start a podcast to talk about this because there's so much information that I want to get out there. And so I'm really excited about today's episode because I talk a lot about quitting your job, and I'm not going to lie to you, it's quite a sexy topic, isn't it? It's quite a sexy topic. There are not many people in the world of work who have not been in that situation where they're like, oh, what I would give to just quit. What I would give to just walk up to my boss and say, hey, I'm done, I quit. So many of us have fantasized about that. But the reason many people think about it and talk about it, but don't actually do it, is because there are risks to it, right? You know, we have jobs for a reason. It's not just for banter. So in this podcast, I'm going to talk to you about how to decide whether or not you should quit your job. Because the truth is, not everyone listening to this should quit. They really shouldn't. And I didn't do it willy-nilly. I did not, I feel like there was a lot of thought that went into it, and it all built up to one gorgeous moment where I sent that email. But the truth is, there was a lot of thought and a lot of consideration before taking that leap. So today I'm going to talk you through that, and hopefully by the end of this podcast you will feel more sure, or more empowered at least, in how to take your next steps. Step one on deciding whether or not you should quit your job is to ask yourself what you want. The truth is, it is so easy to say you hate your job. Like, there's actually low-key no prizes for that, as sad as that is. So many people hate their jobs. So many people know what they don't want to do. They're like, oh, well, I don't want to be broke, but I also don't want to spend my life working. But it's easy to say what you don't want and what you dislike. Say if you're working on a group project, right, and there's an issue on the project, it's very easy to point out the flaws. It's very easy to find the problem, but we're looking for a solution. So it can be easy to say, I don't want this job. But the bigger question and the more important question is, what do you want? Yes, we're taking it back to Noah in the Notebook. What do you want? What do you want? You have to know what you actually want in life. And there's a whole process that I use to figure out what I want in life, and I can do another podcast on that. But I just want to really emphasize here how important it is to know what you want, because that will affect whether or not you should quit your job. It is impossible to get directions for where you want to go if you don't know where you're starting and where you want to go. And quitting your job is much like turning left or right. I know that sounds silly, but it's actually not that big of a deal, quitting a job. It's kind of like deciding to turn left instead of deciding to turn right. It's going to influence what direction your life goes in. And so it's not that deep. People quit jobs all the time, but also it is that deep because it's going to influence what direction you go in life and where you end up and what experiences you have. So it's really important that when you're at this crossroads of do I quit or do I not quit? Quitting is left, not quitting is right. You need to know where you want to end up, okay? It doesn't matter whether or not you quit your job if you don't know where you want to end up, because either way you'll get there. Do you know what I mean? So taking some time to ask yourself what it is you want from your career, what it is you want from your life, and be honest. Like, oh, I've definitely got to do an episode on how to decide what you want, but be honest with yourself. Like, allow yourself to think big. Don't limit yourself. Never say no to yourself. Remember, never say no to yourself, and be completely honest with what it is that you want, because that will affect whether or not you quit your job. While quitting can feel empowering and exciting and like a really sexy, attractive decision, it might also not be the answer because it might not lead to what you want. For example, it could be that what you really want is not to have a job at all. You might say, Sarah, I don't even want to be an actress like you. I don't want to have to work. What I want is passive income. And so then it becomes a case of how do you build up passive income while still maintaining the income of your current job until the passive income is enough in order to quit your job. So it might be that actually right now your biggest question is not whether or not you should quit. It should be, how do I build up passive income? It might be that you actually really love your job, which can be the case for a lot of medics and nurses, that you actually really enjoy the job. You just want fewer hours. And so then that becomes a case of seeing how you can adjust your rota, how you can book your leave. Maybe you can even go less than full time in order to still be able to do this job, but be happier within the job. Maybe it's not the job that's the issue, but the current setup of it. And there are certain things that need tweaking. And so you don't need to quit your job, you just need to tweak it and discuss with managers, discuss with colleagues as to how you can make your working environment a more positive place. And then you might be like me. It might be that you want a completely different career. It might be that your job completely burned you out and leaves you just an absolute heap of yourself each day, in which case it's time to think about whether or not you should quit. If your job is leaving you broken at the end of the day, it might be worth asking yourself, is this job actually for me? Because we have this thing where people talk about work-life balance, but the truth is, it's all life, and life is for a finite, short amount of time. So how you spend your days, it matters. It's not about living for the weekend. It makes absolutely no sense to trade 5 days for 2 days, or maybe 1 day after you've done your laundry and cooked and cleaned, to trade 6 days of the week for 1 day of happiness. The aim is that each day will be purposeful and happy. And so if your job is literally getting you to the point where you are unhappy in life, it is definitely worth considering whether there's an alternate option and whether it's time to quit. So how do you know? How do you decide whether or not to quit your job? Now, my first step would be to get a pen and paper and to consider the benefits of your job. Like, there actually is a silver lining, I think, to most things in life. Even if you have the worst job in the world, you can definitely find some benefits. So the first obvious benefit would be money. For many people, their 9-to-5 job or their weekend job, it is how they earn money to buy food, to pay the bills, to provide the things that they need in this life. So one benefit would be money. Another benefit would be respect. There is actually a big amount of societal status that comes from having a job, no matter what job that is, whether you're working in your local shop, whether you are a fashion designer, or whether you're a medical doctor like me. There is a certain amount of respect that people give you when they know that you have a job. In fact, in our society at the moment, when someone meets you, one of the defining things that we say about ourselves is what we do. They'll be like, hi, I'm Sarah, I'm a doctor, or hi, I'm Sarah, I'm an actress. Oh my goodness, the difference between people's responses when I say I'm a doctor v when I'm an actress, I could write a thesis on it. But anyway, moving swiftly on, there is a certain amount of respect and honour and societal standing that we get by being in the workforce. And that is something to consider because, you know, some people retire and they're like, whoa, that is a big thing to lose. They didn't realise how valuable that was. So that can also be a big benefit of having a job. Another benefit of working a job might be a purpose. So your job can really give you a purpose. Whatever your job is, again, whether you're working in fashion, you could be a Miranda Priestley, you could be a writer, a journalist, you could be cleaning the streets. There is purpose in cleaning the streets. It is so important to have clean streets. You could be cleaning a hospital. That is quite literally saving lives as well. So just know that your work benefits also have a purpose. There is something that you do that has value. That is why you get paid for it. You are bringing value to people, whether you are working on the checkout or whether you are flying a plane, you are bringing value to other people and to this world. And that is also a really big thing to consider. It might not be something that you think of every day when you get up and log in online or log into your Teams chat, but it is real. There is a real benefit of what you do. You are changing and impacting lives in one way or another. Even if it's not in the poster boy, I save lives every Monday, there is still in some way a way that you have a purpose. You have a reason to get up in the morning and you have something to do, which is something that we can sometimes unappreciate until we don't have anything to do, until suddenly we lose that job and we feel purposeless, like, oh, I'm not contributing to society. So that is definitely a benefit that is worth thinking of, especially if you're in the first category of people who's like, I don't want a job, I just want passive income. Because while you will have replaced the money aspect of the things that your job brings you, there are 3 other things that I've mentioned that you might need to think about. How am I going to replace this? If I've got passive income, money coming in, what am I going to do about my societal standing? Does that matter to me? Is there a way that I can forget about it? How am I going to have purpose for my life? What will be getting me out of bed in the morning? And for many people listening to this, you might be like, girl, I got plenty to get me out of bed in the morning. I will get up out of bed to catch a tan, whatever it is, but it's also just worth considering. And then the last benefit that I just want to encourage you to consider, and again, this is not an extensive list, but just a few tipples here and there, is the social aspect. There is a huge social aspect to work. During lockdown in the pandemic, I always felt so blessed and grateful to still be going to work. Some of the bits that I found most difficult were when I had to isolate. I had to isolate about 3 different times due to my flatmate catching the infection and people that I knew testing positive. And those 6 weeks of being at home, not being able to leave the house, oh my goodness, I found it so difficult. So just socializing with colleagues, even if you work from home, like waking up, logging in and saying, morning, I'm here, not turning my camera on, there is still an element of human interaction in that job, whether it is chatting with your line manager. There's like a regular and mandated point of contact. Even if you're a coder and you barely speak to anyone, at some point there will be a meeting that you have to discuss your work with, or you have to discuss your work in, rather. And that is quite a big thing. There is a huge social aspect that we get from going to work, seeing colleagues, especially as a medic. You know, you see so many people. Oh my goodness, the number of people I've been blessed to meet and work with, I just feel so incredibly blessed. That is one of the things that I love about medicine, is the face-to-face contact with everyday people. I think it's just the absolute best. I love work. I'm a people person. Can you tell? I am. And so it's really important to think about what the benefits of your job are. But also to not forget that there are other ways of achieving these same benefits. For example, you can have a social life without having a job. You do not need your job to be the only way that you contact people. You can make friends with your neighbours. You can be intentional, join clubs. So yes, there are benefits, but they're also not necessarily tied to a job. I think for a lot of us, we get a job. Most of us get a job because we need money, but it's also just the assumed path, right? Of you have to get a job in order to earn money. But if you pause and you think, okay, why do I need money? I need money because I need food. Are there other ways that I can get food? Are there other ways that I can provide a house for myself to live in? Now, in this modern day and age, money is pretty much in our society. You're not necessarily going to go to the market and trade your finest sheepskin for the recently harvested potatoes. Like, that's not how it works. There will be like, we need actual money to do this transaction. It is really important to remember why we actually need money, because money can be expensive, and it is really important to know whether the way that you are getting your money is actually too expensive of a way. And that I'll come on to that more in my next points, but let's just really realize that anytime that we are getting money, we are giving something else in order to get it, whether it's our time, our energy, our expertise. Sometimes it can be your joy. If that job is making you miserable, you're trading your joy in order to get that paycheck. For other people, it might be that you're trading time with your children in order to get that paycheck. Some of these things are quite expensive, so let's always remember that the purpose of life is not just to gather money. It is not just to gather money. There are so many more important things than money. I'm not going to pretend money doesn't matter. It absolutely does. But it does not by itself make you happy. Money is just a way of getting things and certain freedoms in order to help yourself live a beautiful, fulfilled life. But it is not a goal in itself. So let's take money just down a peg or two on the charter of whether or not you should quit your job. Because yes, we need to pay the bills, but at what cost? Do you know what I mean? At what cost? And that brings us on to our next point of things I want you to do, if you would like to. It's not by force, but things I would recommend. And it is to write down and consider the costs of the job. Every job has a cost. What is it costing you to keep that job? It might be that for you at this point in time, it is costing you your mental well-being. Now, I've spoken to so many different healthcare professionals over the years, and I have seen, I was going to say I don't want to get emotional, and I say that in probably every podcast, but I have seen some of the best medics, some of the absolute best medics who I've worked with, who I trained with. I have seen them get absolutely broken by the job, and it is heartbreaking to see. It is heartbreaking to see someone so full of life and joy go into a state of depression secondary to the job that they're working. It is so heartbreaking. So if that is you, I'm sorry, I'm sending you so much love, and I pray that things get better. But maybe appreciate that that is a cost of the job that you're doing right now. Right now you are paying your mental well-being in order to stay in this job. And again, it's not just about the paycheck. There's also career progressions. There's all of those things. But that might be one of the costs for you of doing this job, is mental well-being. Some jobs can cost your physical health. For some jobs, I mean, for me, when I was doing night shifts quite a lot and working these crazy A&E rotas, I would get the worst migraines. I had a period where I had really bad insomnia, and by God's grace, I was able to fix it. I made so many lifestyle changes, but I had such bad insomnia and migraines that they would lead to me not being able to get out of bed on some days and having to call in sick. And it went on for so long. It went on for a few years. And I remember going to my GP and telling them about this. And they, they wanted to prescribe me a medication. I expected them to prescribe me this medication. And when I thought about it, I was like, do you know what? This is directly related to my job. Like this physical problem of getting migraines and having insomnia is a cost of my job. It is a cost of my job right now. And I know that when I start a new rotation or when I move to a certain other hospital, I know that it will get better. And so, they prescribed me the medication, but I made lifestyle changes instead. I moved to a different job and it did get better. Now, not every job is going to have these costs, but some of them will really cost you your physical well-being. They shouldn't on paper. And a job will always tell you to speak to, I don't know, the HR. Is it HR? I feel like I've got that wrong. Who do you speak to when there's like a health and safety hazard on the job?
Oh, hello. Editing voiceover Sarah here. I believe the department name that I was looking for is occupational health. So most businesses will have an occupational health department, and it is that department's job to ensure your physical and mental well-being while working on the job and kind of like look out for any potential hazards of the job that you do. Hope that helps. Thank you so much. Now back to the show.
Like, they shouldn't cost you your physical health, but working in stressful jobs, working in physically demanding jobs can actually cost you certain physical health benefits. Another big cost of the job, in fact, this probably should have been first, because I really feel like it is one of the highest costs you can pay, and that is time. Specifically, time with loved ones. So having worked as a doctor, I have had the honour, I call it an honour, of being with people in their last moments. And there's something about seeing, I should say, trigger warning, if you want to skip the next couple of minutes of this podcast, then please do. But there is something about seeing someone through the end of their life that really makes you realise how precious life is and how precious love is. There is no amount of money that can fix certain things. There's no amount of money. There's no drug that makes you live forever. And so if you are trading precious time with your loved ones for a certain amount of money, it might be that that is a very high cost, because there are certain things money can't buy. That's why they say money doesn't buy happiness, right? There are certain things that you simply cannot buy with money, and that is time with loved ones. It is absolutely precious. Some would say it's, to love and be loved is our reason for being. And so I would definitely, consider that as a big cost. Another cost of your job might be your inability to pursue your creative passion. So for me, that was something that I really noticed, because before I went to medical school, I did so many things. I was singing, I would be doing my athletics, I was an active member of my church, I was in my band. I'm a Christian, by the way. And I had so many hobbies. I would paint. I literally would sell paintings, sell portraits in college in order to make some more money. And then when I got to uni, the syllabus said, nope. The syllabus said, drop your hobbies. And then when I graduated and I started working, the job said, hobby who? Hobby who? Hobby who? And I remember vividly thinking, I did all these things. I put them all on my CV. I had #1 Welsh athlete on my med school application. And then when I get to uni, they knock down the track. There was a huge cost of me working that job. And it might be for you that maybe there's a book you want to write. Maybe you want to write music. Maybe you want to design clothes. And the time that you give to your job means that you have been unable to do those other things. Now, I will say, where there's a will, there's a way. There's after work, there's before work, there's weekends, there's days off. But just appreciate that even if you're working on the weekends, after work, on your days off, even if you're pursuing rather your creative pursuits on the weekends and days off, you are still not pursuing them to the level that you could be if you weren't working the job, so it is still a cost. Okay, so let's just say you've got all of your benefits of the job and you've got all of your costs of the job. And now, for the third step, it is time to weigh up your cost v benefit. I know that this sounds so simple. It is so simple. But you guys, many decisions has been made by a pros and cons list. I'm just saying, I love a pro and cons list, but this will actually take some time. This will take some going into depth on what is your priority, because it will change over time. It will change over time. There might be a time in your life when you're like, I just need to stack them peas. I need money. And so it might be that you say, I need money, so I need to stay in this job. Or it might be that you say, I need money, so I need to get out of this job so I can figure out how to make more money. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to go into depth over what the benefits and the costs are of this job when it comes to achieving what you want, okay? So let's remember, you have to have your goal in mind. That is what is going to help you weigh these things up. If your goal is to be a world-renowned surgeon, then it might be that the cost of not spending time with your 2-year-old daughter is worth that for you. That might be your priority. For other people, it might be that you have really wanted to be this amazing top level nurse, and then you have a child and suddenly your priorities change. It might be that you're not wanting to miss time with your child anymore. It might be that you want to be a stay-at-home parent. And so I think it's really important to weigh up the costs and benefits. And also, while you do this, try not to hold yourself to a former version of who you are. Things change, we grow, and that's okay. It's okay to change your mind. It might be that 10 years ago, all you wanted was to be a guitarist, but now actually it really matters to get a mortgage, and so you're going to stick it through this job for the goal of getting a mortgage. Again, the goal is the destination of where you want to be. Allow yourself to be honest with yourself about where you want to be, and allow the truth to come through as you consider the costs and the benefits. Be completely honest. If for you, the respect that you get in your job matters a lot, write that down. Like, it's okay if you say, actually, I really love it when people call me doctor. I love that feeling. That's absolutely fine. Write that down as one of the benefits. It's okay if you don't want to give that up. Like, someone actually laughed at me. Someone literally laughed in my face. Someone laughed at me in my face when I told them I was an actor. And I remember in that moment just thinking, I wonder if they would have laughed if I had just chosen to introduce myself as a doctor. This was quite early on in my career change, when I just quit my full-time job, and I still am working part-time as a doctor. But back then, it was kind of like, depending on what day of the week it was, I'd either say I was a doctor or I'd say I was an actor. And I told this person I was an actor, and they laughed in my face. And it didn't bother me that much, because for me, of course I have an ego. We all have an ego. I don't know. I guess I could just simply say that it didn't matter that much to me. I just found it quite funny. I was like, whoa, mad. I didn't know that. How different it felt. Like, I was like, yeah, it was just really interesting to go from people's normal reaction of, oh wow, and because doctors are held in high esteem in our current society. So it was so different to go from that reaction to going to someone literally laughing at me when I tell them what I do. And I didn't mind, But it could be that I did mind and I was like, whoa, that matters to me. That's okay. Just be honest. Be honest with yourself, because at the end of the day, one thing that my brother told me is that you are the one who's going to live the consequences of your decisions. You're the one who's going to live the consequences of your decisions. So you could leave that off your benefits list if you want to pretend to be a certain kind of person and say, oh no, I don't mind about respect, let me leave it off the list. But then you're the one who's going to have to bear the consequences of that. So try and be honest with yourself. Say what actually matters to you. No one else is watching and judging. And weigh things up carefully as who you are right now, trying to get from where you are right now to where you want to be. One thing to consider while you're weighing up the pros and cons of whether or not you should quit your job is that something being hard is not necessarily a con. There are so many things in this life that are difficult, but something being difficult does not mean it is a negative or a cost, okay? There is actually, it is possible to have a certain type of hard work that you enjoy. And sometimes the hard work that you even don't enjoy might be worth it for what the job will bring. Again, that is why it's so important to have your North Star, your goal, because then you can say, okay, it's hard, but it's going to lead me to this goal, or I have a way of making it less hard in order to continue down this path in order to get my goal. So something being hard and difficult is not necessarily a reason why you should quit. For example, for me, and this sounds crazy, medicine was so hard. It is getting my degree. Oh my goodness, I'm so proud of myself for doing that. Working as a doctor, there have been some of the most difficult moments. However, working as an actress is also hard. Like, it is a craft and a skill, and you have to have such a strong jaw. If you see my jaw pop in, it might be that I took some rejections on the chin. It might be that some auditions didn't work out. There are so many things that are hard about acting, but I can deal with that because it's going to get me to the goal of where I want to be. And it's a type of hard that I really thrive on, that I enjoy. You know, there are certain types of hard work that will bring out the best of you. Like, I love when I get a script and I get to go into detail and try different things with a character. That might be hard work to some people, but to me, I love that. You know, there'll be times when we're in tech about to go on stage. So during the tech of a show, you often have long days from like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and you can be in full costume. It can be hot and sweaty, and it can be quite hard work. And I just remember one of my co-stars on one of the shows I was doing asking me, oh, this is hard, isn't it? And then I guess I must have done, my reaction must not have been what they expected, because then they were like, oh, but I guess it's not as hard as medicine. And I think I said something like, well, yeah, no one's died, so that's good. And that's a horrible medic thing to say, really, isn't it? But it was literally that. It was that, like, yes, this is hard, but it's a different kind of hard. It is a kind of hard where I go home and I sleep at night. And so hard work is actually not necessarily something you want to avoid. In many ways, it's a beautiful thing to embrace when that hard work leads you to where you want to be. Again, keeping that North Star as the North Star. The next thing that I would encourage you try is writing down a plan. So writing down a step-by-step plan of what you would expect and hope your life to look like if you do quit your job. So say if you do quit your job, how will you earn money? What other jobs will you apply for? What will you do on a Monday morning in your spare time? What's the leave notice? Like, write down in detail what these steps will look like towards your goal. So each step of the way, because sometimes it's quite possible to, you have the goal, the direction of where you want to be in life, what you want to get from life. You have where you are right now. And we can kind of gloss over this bit where we're like, oh, I would just get there. But sometimes it can be really beneficial to draw an imaginary staircase, because it can take away the fear. Sometimes when you draw out the staircase, you're like, oh, yeah, it's just one step at a time. It's not impossible. Like, these individual steps are actually all very possible. It's when you look at it as one big leap that it can feel impossible. So for me, when it was like, oh, I want to be here, I want to be an actress. Right now I'm here, I'm a medical doctor. How do I get there? And it's like, oh, I do it like one step at a time. So I learn to act. I apply for acting jobs. I get an agent. I have my first experience on set. I network, I this, I that. And suddenly it's a little bit less scary, you know. Suddenly the goal of making an incredible film that impacts people's lives, suddenly there's actually a way to get there. And I recommend you do that for what happens if you quit. I also recommend you do that for what happens if you don't quit. So it's almost like what would my life look like in 5 years if I continue down this path? So if I don't quit my job, well, I guess I go into training, I get a mortgage, I hopefully meet someone, settle down. And none of these things are bad things, but it just helps you to write these things in a practical step-by-step way of what your life will look like either way. And that for me can really help me to know exactly in my know how I feel, sense what I'm feeling towards both paths. You know, which one is lighting me up with joy? Which one am I feeling more peace about? Which one am I feeling more inspired about? Which one is giving me hope for the future? And so I highly recommend that you do this.
So as you may or may not be able to see, depending on whether you are listening to or watching this podcast, the video has cut. And due to that reason, I'm actually going to end today's episode there because there's so much more that I want to say, but I want to say in like a good, cohesive way. You know, I love to give the visuals as well as the audios, even though this is a podcast. So what I will say is that if you do want to hear all about how I actually quit my job, because there's one thing getting the theory right, and then there's another thing seeing how the person who's suggesting the theory actually worked it out practically in their life. I'm a big believer in storytelling. And so I would love to tell you my story about how I quit my job and how that went. And so I can do that for you next week in next week's episode. So definitely come back for how to quit your job and how I went about quitting my job if that is the decision that you decide to take. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. I really appreciate all the love and support, all the comments, all the 5-star ratings. I super appreciate that. And also, if you do leave a rating, it actually recommends this podcast to more people who might not know about it. So I super appreciate that. Definitely come and join me on my social media. If you're on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube, I'm on there too. It's at Dr Sara Otung. Let's be internet friends, like all over the internet. And yeah, just thank you so much for watching and listening. And soz for the abrupt ending. Feels a little weird, but also quite freeing, actually. Maybe I should stop doing video altogether. This feels so much easier. Like just sitting here recording voiceover. It feels weirdly safe. I feel like a mysterious... Anyway, why am I still talking? Thank you so much for listening. I will see you in my next episode. I love you so much. Have a beautiful day. God bless you. Bye.